Hi everyone. In this video, we're going to talk about sexy paragraphs. So if you haven't opened the sexy paragraph handout, I would suggest that you hit pause on this video and do so right now and take a look at it. I'll wait. Okay, if you've looked at the sexy paragraph handout, then you know that a sexy paragraph is one complete thought. Sexy is just an acronym for statement, explanation, example, and interpretation. I can't take credit for this acronym, though it works because it's funny and sticks in your head. Who knew that paragraphs could be sexy, right? This acronym actually comes from my high school English teacher, and it was one of the most useful things I learned from any teacher anywhere. Even through my graduate program and my writing my dissertation and getting my doctorate degree, anytime I get stuck when I write, or if I'm not sure if a paragraph is coming together or I'm struggling to get the words out, I go back to this template. Did I make a statement? Have I thoroughly explained it? Have I provided examples and support to help paint a picture for the reader of that? And did I tell you, so what? Why is this important to know? This means that this template, this sexy paragraph, can become the foundation for a lot of the expository writing that you're creating in the art education program, in your graduate program, in your research classes. Okay, and I want to look at the paragraph right here and analyze it with you for its sexiness, because I'll tell you the most common error I see in beginning writers or beginning to intermediate writers is they try to pack too many statements into one paragraph. Okay, so let's take a look at this. This paragraph is meant to introduce you to the main ideas to Julianne Verme's book, Working the Reggio Way. Okay, now I know that you haven't read that book. There's a link in the tutorial to the Google book, so you can kind of glance through the introduction if you'd like to get a sense. Julianne Verme is an American teacher who went to Reggio Emilia, Italy, to learn about the Reggio Emilia approach to preschool. And the Reggio Way, Reggio Emilia, is an arts-based, constructivist, atelier-focused, studio-focused preschool method. And it developed in World War II. After Mussolini was taken out of power, in a direct response of, we can't go down that dictatorial path again, right? We don't want people burning books. We don't want people limiting creativity. We don't want people telling other people what they can think and what they can't. And the Reggio Emilia style of education looks at emergent interests of students. So if you start to pay attention to your 3 and 4 and 5-year-olds and they're really excited about horses, then the next unit of study that you would develop would be about horses, because you want to maximize on that potential. It's also very much focused on provocations. Provocations is about creating stations in the classroom and opportunities for students to discover information for themselves, which you then reinforce and expand upon. So for example, if you wanted the students to learn how to mix green and you wanted to learn about secondary colors and using blue and yellow to make green, you might set up a table with all kinds of green objects and plants and pictures of nature. And you might have blue and yellow and maybe a little red or burnt sienna, something to neutralize the green a little bit with, and some white, maybe some black or some indigo, something to, make the greens darker and lighter. And you would just invite the children over to mix paint and to discover for themselves what blue and yellow make, right? So it's a very much discovery-based learning. And the author of this paragraph had read the book and was trying to just kind of summarize one main idea, like what is the purpose of this kind of curriculum. Okay, so let's read through this paragraph together and try to analyze it. Each sentence, is it a statement, an explanation, an example, or an interpretation? Okay, first sentence says, in Working the Reggio Way, Julianne Verme describes an educational approach to primary education based on the many schools of Reggio Emilia. Okay, that's good. That's a statement. Right, that's a clean statement. We would expect then for the rest of the paragraph to explain to us what the Reggio Emilia approach is. Okay, let's take a look at the next sentence. The goal is not to copy the Reggio Emilia approach, but to let it inspire questions about the reader's teaching style and approach. That's a little confusing to me. Let's just take a look at that for a second. Right, the goal, but we're not sure whose goal here. The teacher's goal, the author's goal, right? I think it's like Verme's goal, is not to copy the Reggio Emilia approach, but to let it inspire questions about the reader's teaching style and approach. Verme's goal. Well, that doesn't really explain her first statement. It doesn't tell us what the Reggio Emilia style it is. It tells us a secondary goal that Julianne Verme is after, right? It tells us, that it makes a statement that she's not really telling us as the reader to copy Reggio Emilia, right? Because we're U.S. teachers not working in the Italian public school system, but we need to be inspired by the Reggio Emilia approach. So that doesn't really explain our first sentence. It's actually another statement. All right, let's take a look at the next sentence. Hopefully this sentence will describe this statement up here, the very first statement that the paragraph is supposed to be about. The teacher is to dial in on their view of the child and childhood and locate their own overall vision of education. That one's tricky. It might be an E to this statement, but it's certainly not an E to telling us what Reggio Emilia as an educational approach is or does, right? This feels more like a sentence that is asking us to think how we as the reader are meant to interact with the book, right? That's what the author is inviting us to do. That's actually another statement, right? That's another new idea. So we're going to change that to S and keep going. Again, we're still looking to see if there's an E that describes the educational approach to primary education based on the schools of Reggio Emilia. We still kind of want to know, okay, well, what is Reggio Emilia, right? I've kind of told you what it is, but we haven't seen it show up in the paragraph yet. The teacher is not just an instructor guiding the students, but more of a co-learner that works with student interests and what can be taught through student interests. Oh, well, that's a nice sentence. But it doesn't describe what Reggio Emilia is. It might if there was a little bit more going on above. This describes what the teacher's role is in Reggio Emilia. So again, we have another statement. All right, let's keep going. Let's see if we can find an E anywhere. The teacher is just as active a participant as the children. Ooh, well, that's an E, but it's an E for the statement that we just read. These two can stay together, right? Because, okay, in this sentence right above right here, the teacher is not just an instructor guiding the students. The teacher is just as active a participant as the children. That expands on this idea. So that could eventually become its own paragraph, but we still haven't seen an E for our first topic sentence. Let's keep going. For many teachers in the Reggio Emilia area, documentation of student progress is important. Okay, that's once again a whole different idea. It's a quality of Reggio Emilia education that documentation of student progress is important. That's qualities of Reggio Emilia, but it still doesn't really explain to us what it is. That is yet another S. Wow, there's a lot of S's. This is not a sexy paragraph right now. Let's keep going. Although Verme summarizes the teaching styles and pedagogy of many teachers in the Reggio Emilia area, there's no set right way and no set answer. Okay, well, that sounds like the author is trying to explain yet one more idea about the author's writing style and what the book covers. So still again, another statement. Each teacher is unique in his or her educational approach. However, all have a common direction, the unity of all aspects of teaching. All right, I think that's a clear E right here of this statement. So we don't actually have, we had something that had the shape of a paragraph, right? It was indented. It had more than 5 sentences. It was written on the page. We don't actually have a single complete paragraph in any of all of that. We have a statement, a statement, a statement, a statement and an explanation, a statement, another statement, and another explanation, right? And this is where people get into trouble. They think they're writing a sexy paragraph, but they've packed too many different ideas into one paragraph that isn't sexy at all. It's very unsexy. And it's very confusing to the reader because we never fully expand one particular idea of what Reggio Emilia is or what the author wants to say in this paragraph. Now, the good news is, if you've ever struggled to write enough in a paper or to have enough pages or word count, then you probably need to analyze your paragraphs for sexiness. Because if we expanded each of these paragraphs, and paragraphs can easily take up half a page to a page, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different paragraphs that you could write about. This is a paper, right? This is a paper that is going to tell us when it's done, when all of these statements are expanded into sexy paragraphs, into a paper that describes Reggio Emilia, right? Tells us that the author's goal is not to, transition pure Reggio into U.S. schools, but to, bring Reggio ideas to U.S. teachers, right? We can talk more about that. That'd be cool to know more about. It's also reminding us, the author is also reminding us that, the role of you, the reader, the teacher who's reading this book, really is going to have to pay more attention to what they think and how they position the child and childhood in education, right? So this is like, this is what you, the reader, need to reflect upon, right? Now, here we get to some stuff that is a little bit more about how the Reggio Emilia approach works. We might want to copy and paste that and move it up here. If I was writing a paper about Reggio, I'd want that a little closer to the description, right? Same thing with documentation, right? Documentation is a key component of Reggio Emilia and teacher research. That might go up here really nicely as well, okay? And then we have this nice this would make a great conclusion to a paper on Reggio, right? The fact that the idea that there is no right way to implement Reggio Emilia, but there are like core approaches or core ideas that all Reggio teachers, have in common. And I'd expand on this, based upon the paper. So really, look, you thought you had one paragraph, you've actually got probably a 4 to 5 page paper about Reggio Emilia in these statements if you fully expand one of these ideas. Okay, so how do we actually turn one of these into a complete paragraph? Once you've realized that you have too many statements in your paragraphs, it's time to really get into a full thought, to fully expand one statement. So let's just start up here, right? I'm going to just move all of these down. Let's just take one statement and see if we can finish the thought. In Working the Reggio Way, Julianne Verm describes an educational approach to primary education based upon the many schools of Reggio Emilia, Italy, right?